So recently I've been learning about some interesting places in Canada, so many interesting towns and cities, and something I've had a growing interest to explore a bit more are the ghost towns of Canada, which I have learned that there's actually quite a lot. They're very plentiful, and obviously the size of Canada would mean that these ghost towns would come in really all shapes and sizes. I found this video that I thought had a great title that made me very intrigued and something I definitely want to learn more about. This is exploring a ghost town frozen in time you won't believe exists, Kitsault in BC in British Columbia. So again, recommend other ghost towns in Canada that you think are interesting, and I'll try and learn about them, try and find some videos about them. But this one, Kitsault in British Columbia, tell me if you know of this ghost town. And yeah, you can tell me what you think about this video as well. Let's watch.
Located in northern British Columbia, Kitsault is perhaps one of the best preserved modern-day ghost towns. It sits in a nearly perfect state of preservation, with the power still on. This area of northern British Columbia was long known for its rich mineral deposits. In 1979, it was molybdenum, also known as moly, that was in high demand. Molybdenum is used in steel alloys to increase strength, hardness, electrical conductivity, and resistance to corrosion and wear. Between 1967 and 1972, a total of 10 million tons of moly had already been mined, but the prices in the early 70s were trending down. AMAX of Canada Limited purchased the site in 1973. By around 1979, the molybdenum market was on the rise, with news that many of the known deposits in Western Canada and the United States were depleted. In 1979, the mine was reopened and construction of the town started. The plan was to make Kitsault a place that would attract workers to remote northern BC. They would build a community that would house around 1,200 residents. By 1980, the first families would start moving in. Built was a community of around 100 single-family homes and duplexes and 7 apartment buildings with around 200 suites. There was a modern hospital, mall, restaurants, bank, theater, 2 recreation centers, a school, and more. Everything a modern 1980s community would want and need. Just after families had settled in and the price of moly collapsed due to the 1982 recession and the moly byproduct production from copper mines, the mine was closed. The last residents were gone by 1983, only 18 months of full operation to closure. For the next 22 years, the town sat vacant and untouched, like a time capsule. Caretakers were hired to maintain the town during this time.
Whoa, look at that.
In 2005, an American businessman bought the town and has spent millions in renovations, keeping the town preserved with a vision for future development and projects. Today, most of the town still remains as it was from 1983.
Those images are actually a bit haunting, but very enjoyable to look at because of how well it's been preserved. Like, even you see those fittings inside the house. It's like really well kept, and I've never really seen anything like this where I've seen ghost towns before, but it's usually they're in a bit of disrepair, falling apart, if you want to say it like that. But this is like almost perfectly kept. I like kind of things like liminal spaces, and I like watching videos about that. So some of the images there, like the swimming pool, just the emptiness of these buildings where things are still kept in place. It's almost like that dreamlike feeling you get. But yeah, those liminal spaces, and really fantastic. I feel like if I lived anywhere near this, I would love to go and explore the place itself. But hearing the story about it as well, it's like this is obviously why a lot of these ghost towns come to be, because of they once housed some sort of industry, mining and so on is quite common. But that kind of leaves after, for whatever reasons, whether it's policy changes, lack of the mineral that's being mined, or things like, China came in and took away a lot of like steel works and things like that, which had similar effect in the UK, but maybe not as much as things like this. But tell me what you think about this so far. Residential neighborhood. Look at these places.
Here's one of the abandoned streets here in Kitsault.
Imagine it just being full of life at one time with
All
people.
these houses along here haven't been lived in since 1983.
40 years of nothing. Such nice little houses as well, so quaint. Imagine all the kids running about there having fun at one point. Such a beautiful location. Something like so serene and peaceful about places like this for me. Although it can be a bit scary, but Mother Nature's taking over.
Walking through the abandoned neighborhoods with my friend Mike was surreal. Home after home lined the streets, and you almost expect to see someone, but nobody's home. It is hard to imagine now, but around 1,200 people used to call this home. They are now just empty shells that are showing their age, but you can also see the caretakers' efforts. On many, the roofs have been reshingled, along with other repairs and yard maintenance, as part of their efforts for preservation. The further you go down the streets to the far end of the neighborhood, you can see some that have had very little done to them, as the moss grows thick everywhere. A perfect example of how nature will always try and reclaim.
Really is. I mean, look at the size of that house, the big balcony. These are really like impressive houses to live. Again, got to give some respect to the developer or whoever bought that for like retailing the roofs and things to keep them in a better state of repair. And like I would hope that I wonder how they're going to actually market a place like this if they plan to develop somewhere like this. Is it would be like maybe this sort of like peaceful mecca for work from home workers. Look at a house like that, man. I would love a house like that big. Nice big garden. Look at the mountain in the back as well. So picturesque. Recreation centre. Still got that, yeah, quite.
There are 2 recreation centers in Kitsault. The first one we will visit sits across from the shopping mall. The daycare and library are the first you will see on the upper floor, and on the lower floor there is the aquatic area with full-size swimming pool. You can also see handmade decorations hanging from above and water still in the pool.
I was just going to say, but like it really can. It's like almost like a museum to a certain time period, like the 70s or 80s, like these fittings and things like that. I could imagine these are probably worth something because of like the sort of vintage or sort of almost antique type nature of them.
You can also
look at the way the toys are all just perfectly left there and so tidy as well. It's hard to imagine like 40 years it's been since someone actually stepped foot in here or since this was in use because of how well the things have held
see
up.
Handmade decorations hanging from above and water still in the pool. There is also a hardwood floor gymnasium, exercise room, and more. What is truly amazing about Kitsault is the level of preservation,
It's crazy.
with most items still left as they were in '83.
Like you see the 70s look of these books and things like that as well. Look at this, man. This is a treasure trove of history. Kinda scary but nice as well. Yeah, tell me if you've known anybody to be from any of these ghost towns or if you've ever had the chance to explore any of them. So much equipment there as well. It's like these lights, I really like them, man. They're like really nice style. VIP guest house.
If you were a working professional visiting Kitsault,
Those
you would have
lights.
most likely stayed here at the VIP guest house. It sits on a hill overlooking the town and was the most luxurious home in town. It is a fully preserved 4-bedroom and 5-bath home, frozen in time, from the 1980s.
It's like to think of these being like, looking at it, it looks like, you can just say simply old, but at the time it's like, this is like the nicest sort of interior design and very modern of its time, at its time. Like, I mean, that's so 70s, that design, the colouring and stuff. This would be a good place to have like a horror movie or something like that. It's like already pre-made.
Along with around 100 single-family homes and duplexes, there were also 7 apartment buildings with around 200 total units.
The wood paneling on there is really nice. I wonder how many of these ghost towns there are, like actually are across Canada. I can't imagine there'll be too many that are as preserved so well like this. But maybe I don't know. It's a big hospital as well, actually, for a town of 1,200.
This 2-story hospital was vital to the community as the next nearest hospital was hours away. It was and still is fully equipped and stocked and is one of the most fully preserved buildings in the town. Everything is still here: tools, medical supplies, x-ray machine, operating room, and more. It's like there's little touches that just take you back to the other time, like the font on there, the tiling on some of the rooms. It's actually a very well equipped little town, man. It seems like quite a The Upper Recreation
cool place
Center
to
has a
live.
curling rink, racquetball courts, a movie theater, and the stunning Maple Leaf pub. Kitsault was definitely built with a focus on attracting workers and their families and providing
17th century
everything people would
cigarettes.
expect from any other town at the time.
Looks like really like a British pub there we got. Like, is that Scotland? Something like the sort of coat of arms of Scotland it look like. We've got a curling rink as well. Movie theatre. actually very well designed, this place, this town. You can see why it would attract people at that time.
Yeah, very cool. You can see the original parking lot here. Bit of overgrowth. But everything's pretty much frozen in time and preserved. So it's pretty unique. Everything looks late 70s, 80s. But we're gonna go into the mall here and check it out.
Got a mall. Quite interested to see what a mall like this small and at that time would look like. Tell me if this like brings back any memories of anything from these times, like the styles of the things. Okay, yeah, it's like a little small, I've got a little shop there, it's a little supermarket.
The 22,000 square foot shopping mall is located in the center of town. It contains a grocery store, Royal Bank, post office, restaurant, a Sears, as well as other retail shops.
Wednesday, October the 12th, it was closed. Like the furniture and things here, like again, I feel like people would pay a lot of money for furniture. You know, again, things that were built at this time were a lot higher quality, but also just for the design of it as well. 1983, so maybe Wednesday, October the 12th, 1983. Imagine like imagine working here before and you're like watch this video and just see how it is. It must be quite a weird feeling to see.
Company-built towns built around resource extraction are now a thing of the past. Temporary work camps are now built instead, which makes Kitsault truly a last of its kind. So what does the future hold for this town? The owner originally had plans of opening it up as a retreat for ecotourism. Later proposed as being the location of a liquefied natural gas terminal for the export of natural gas and other projects. Any major projects will include the direct involvement of the indigenous with a strong focus on land and the environment. Kitsault has been left in the hands of some wonderful caretakers. The town is privately owned and the only way to visit is to arrange a trip through northern BC jet boat tours. Rob Bryce has built a relationship with the caretakers for over a decade. Thank you to the caretakers and Rob for allowing us access for this one-of-a-kind experience. And thanks to everyone watching, and I will see you on the next one.
That was fantastic. Really enjoyed everything about that. So, yeah, great work by the producers of this. Getting a real insight into, I mean, just history, just life at this time, as well as the individual situation of this town and what actually happened. It's a great story. The preservation, again, like great work from the developers who developed that. I mean, they had the ideas about the being like a sort of resort or for new industry, but I feel like definitely like what people want to do these days is it's like everybody's working from home, but they're maybe still living in cities, like if this is in British Columbia, maybe Vancouver and things like that, where rent can be high if you had a very low cost rent place here, and is in the middle of seemingly a very beautiful place, nature wise, landscape wise, get people as like a little Monday to Friday place to live for people who are living in the big cities in British Columbia, and get them all there to work from there, get good Wi-Fi and things, good infrastructure like that for people to work from home, but just having that like just nice quaint little quiet place that's cheap to live seems like a great place. I definitely think there's a lot of potential for a place like that, but interested in the backstory. Tell me more about what you think about this individual story and just about ghost towns in general in Canada, if you've been from one, if you've ever been to explore one, and what do you think Kitsault could be used for in the future? Thanks.